with Siri Shortcuts now out, I've gotten a ton of requests for a shortcut that will basically tell you what's going on for your day. It'll get your calendar, events, tasks, weather, maybe run some media stuff or turn on some lights. I've gotten a ton of requests for that. So I actually thought this would be a good shortcut to start off with. It takes advantage of a lot of different things in shortcuts. So let's kind of do that. A disclaimer at the beginning, I will put this shortcut in the description below. So if you'd rather just go and download it and, tweak it yourself or just use it as is, it will be there to download. I'm also going to be using some third-party Siri suggested actions. So these are third-party applications. So one of them I'm going to be using is Carrot Weather. The built-in weather application is fine, but it's only on the iPhone, so I can't build it on my iPad. I really like Carrot Weather because it's on both, and it works good, and it has a nice interface. So you can use Carrot Weather if you like, or you can swap it out for a different weather app if that's what you'd like to use. So let's kind of get into this, and I'm going to kind of walk through it, and I'll pause and kind of explain what I'm doing along the way. So let's hit the plus button and get into a new shortcut. So first off, what we want to do is get our calendar events. This whole shortcut is going to be based on what kind of calendar events we got going on. And we're going to do a couple of different things with that. So let's do this very first action right here, get upcoming calendar events. You can see that was on the suggested side, and after I picked that, the suggested side changed. You can also hit the search button right here and type in get upcoming, and it's right there. So there's get upcoming events, get upcoming reminders. They're all right there. It's very handy. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there. So the very first option you have to choose from is what kind of calendar you want it to look at. I'm personally going to only have it look at my personal calendar. That's really the only calendar I use. You can have it look at all calendars, but it'll still get like US holidays and birthdays and stuff found in mail. I really don't want it to deal with that stuff. I just want it to be personal. I'm also going to set this really high to 10 events. So this means it's going to get the next 10 events, but we're going to put some parameters on that. This way, I will never have 10 events on my calendar for any given day. Not going to happen, but it's more than what I think I'll ever have, so it's safe in the future. I won't run into issues about, well, I accidentally had 11 calendar events. There's no way it's going to be 11 calendar events. If you set it too low, it might not get enough, so I recommend setting it to 10 or higher if you like. 10 is probably a good number for most people, though. Then we're going to set day to look at today. So basically what this action now does is it gets upcoming calendar events from our personal calendar, gets the next 10 events, and only does it for that day. That's great. So what we're going to do next is we are actually going to go into the scripting section right here. And this is where kind of all the programmery stuff comes ahead. And we're going to grab this count action right here. And what count does is it's going to take those upcoming events from our personal calendar, the next 10 events from today, and we're going to have it set to items. So it's going to count all of those. And so basically what that does is it'll return a value. So if we do this right now, I have 0 events in my calendar for today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab an if statement. So I just searched for it. An if statement in programming is basically something that has 2 different outcomes based on the value, the input. So what we're going to do is we're going to have it equal 0. So if the action equals 0, we're going to have it run one set of commands. If it equals something other than 0, something greater than 0, we could even do the greater than, but I'm just going to do equal because it makes sense. If it's something other than 0, it's going to do this otherwise function right under here. But we're going to worry about the if part right now. So if it equals 0, we want it to show results. So we're going to come down here, grab that, and we're going to say, just tell it to say no appointment. Oops, no appointment. It's really hard to type and do a screen recording at the same time. So right now, if we run this, it'll say no appointments because I have nothing in my calendar today. So that's great. So far, script's working is good. If we had no appointments, it'll tell us no appointments. But next, I want to check the weather. I want to see what the weather's going to be like today. Maybe I want to know what I should wear. So I'm going to hit check weather right here, and we're going to leave show when run happens. So now if we run this, it would go through, it would get our upcoming calendar events, count them. It would do the if statement. It would say no appointments, and then show the weather. Great. This is moving right along. But you know what? I'm up. I want to start listening to a podcast. I really like podcasts. It kind of gets me through my day. I'm really excited about that. So let's do something here. So let's set the volume, because who knows what the volume's been changed to on my device. So let's set the volume to let's turn it up all the way. And then we're going to have it play the podcast. But you know what? I don't want the podcast to play on just my normal iPhone speakers. I have really nice speakers in my office and in my living room, but I don't have them. I don't have a HomePod. I have Echoes, unfortunately. So the two aren't really compatible because they're on two different platforms. But with the Echo, all you have to really do is have it say, "Alexa, connect a Bluetooth device," right? So why don't we just have Siri say that? So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and get this nothing block right here. And what nothing does is you can kind of see these lines in between actions, and that means it's passing stuff through. And if I delete that nothing, you can see it's passing stuff through there. So I'm going to do this nothing, and that basically breaks that up. So now our last action was to set the volume of the device all the way up. But now what we want to do is we want to come in here to show results again. And you remember show results was used to tell us no appointments. And this is something Siri will actually speak out loud when you invoke it. And we're going to tell it, "Alexa, connect to Bluetooth device." And that's really what you have to say if you were going to invoke that to Alexa. Now, if you don't have an Echo or anything like that, you don't have to use these steps. This isn't a requirement, but I like listening to my podcast through a nice speaker. So when you do that, you always know, if you've ever connected a device via Bluetooth to an Echo, you'll notice it takes a little bit of time. It doesn't do it instantaneously. It actually, for mine at least, it takes exactly 6 seconds. So we're going to use this wait action right here, and I got it under the scripting section, or you can search for it. And I'm going to set it to 6 seconds to wait. So there's going to be a pause in our shortcut for 6 seconds before it does anything. Now, say I wanted to play music. I know I was talking about podcasts, but say I wanted to get a playlist. So I could do get playlist right here. I can choose from there. I really like some AC/DC. So I could set that, and then I could set it to play music. And then right there, it would grab AC/DC. I could turn shuffle songs on. I could do repeat if I wanted to, but it would connect to Alexa, it would wait 6 seconds, and then it would start playing that music at full volume. But that's not what I want. I want it to play a podcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to search, and if you kind of scroll around, there's a bunch of different sections in here, and you can kind of go through. This is honestly really how I learned workflow, was I would come through here, and I'd just start playing with different actions in here. We're going to scroll down here, and we're going to go to Overcast. And Overcast does a fantastic job of Siri suggestion support. There's so many features in here. My personal favorite is I have a playlist that's called Unfinished Podcast. And this is basically every one of my podcasts goes in here in order from oldest to newest. So I'm kind of always moving through stuff. And what this shortcut will do is it'll play the most recent podcast or play the first unfinished episode, or unplayed episode. So if you're currently listening to a podcast, it'll just resume it. If you don't have anything played, it'll start at the top of the playlist, and then I'll play that first one there. So this is a really handy thing to have. So this will just resume whatever podcast I'm doing. I really like that. So now we have our podcast playing through our Echo device on our nice speakers. Like this is fantastic. But I also want to look at my task manager for the day. Like I didn't have any calendar appointments, but I'm sure I have something in my task manager. Now my task manager of choice is Things 3. That's fine for me, but obviously you might have something different. So this should work with any task manager that has been updated to support Siri Shortcuts. Now it does have to be updated to support Siri Shortcuts. I know a few of them haven't yet at the time of this recording, which is a couple days after it's come out, but hopefully yours is. Anytime is all of my tasks that I could just do at any time. That's great. They could be set for today, or they could just not have a due date, the anytime one. Yep, right there. So that is the show anytime right now. So if we were to run through this, it would get our calendar events. If we had no appointments, it would say no appointments, check the weather, turn the volume up, play our podcast, and then it would show the anytime view and things. But that's great for if we don't have any calendar events that day, but what if we do have some calendar events? So this is where the otherwise section comes in. So I'm going to come over here to show results. Again, this is a very, very handy action to get used to. So this is the one that will speak things out loud. So when Siri runs this, when you tell Siri to run this, Siri will read this stuff out loud. So we're going to say, here are your appointments. Here we go. And then we're going to space down. So that's great. So it'll read that text, but we need to be able to get those appointments from somewhere. And this is where variables come in. Variables are a programming term, and it's basically data that changes based on the input and values. So essentially, what your calendar looks like today, we are going to make that a variable. And tomorrow, that'll be different because your calendar looks different every single day. So we can't just have it read off the same appointments. It's different from day to day. So we're going to make that a variable. And Shortcuts does this really cool thing with magic variables. And the next video I do, I'm going to go into way more detail about them, but I'm going to give you enough to start using them now. It's this little wand icon down here in the bottom. And if we hit that, the view changes a little bit. And if we scroll up, any of these blue icons right here can become variables. So we're going to select upcoming events. And upcoming events is now our variable, but we specifically want to know the title of our upcoming events. So we're going to select this right here. And so it's going to get the title. So now when it runs, it'll say, here are your appointments, upcoming events, and the title. This is great. So I'm going to hit done here, but you know what? We don't want to just know the title. It'd be helpful to know when these events are. So let's make another new line, hit magic variable again, scroll up to the top, upcoming events, but this time let's get the start date. Now this will get the date and time of your appointment. Now right here, there's the date format and the time format. I like to make these short because this is a little more natural. The medium and long ones are very computery. They're very specific. So the short date and time works fine for me, but if you prefer the long ones, that's fine too. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done here. So now it'll say, here's your appointments. It'll say the title, it'll say the start date, and it'll give us all of our appointments for today only, which is really great. Now, the rest of this script is pretty much everything that I just did up here, so I'm not going to rehash that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the finished script here in just a second, but hopefully you guys kind of get the hang of this. Okay, so here is the finished script. So we have get upcoming events, count. If it equals 0, then it runs through this part. No appointments today. Enjoy your day off. Caret, volume, nothing. Then it'll connect to our Bluetooth device. Run overcast, then open things, and it'll show the anytime view. Otherwise, so if we do have calendar events, it'll show our upcoming calendar events and basically all the same stuff. So it's really handy, and it's based on that if statement and what's going on in your calendar, which is really handy and really nice. Also, I did a couple of other things. If we come up here to control, so this is the settings for this shortcut. So I named it today. I changed the icon. This is all kind of held over from workflow when Shortcuts was workflow. You can kind of see all this stuff in here. I set a Siri phrase. So if you come in here, and I'm not going to do it because it breaks my microphone setup, unfortunately, you can record a phrase. So I set mine to show me my day. And when you say the trigger phrase for Siri, and then it'll run this action. So that's pretty handy. You can also make this a widget. You can put it in the share sheet, though this one wouldn't be that helpful in the share sheet. And you can also add an icon to the home screen, which is pretty cool. But let's go over to my iPhone because this is really where that shortcut is going to run. It's really going to run on my iPhone. I'm going to run it twice for you. The first time I'm going to run it is when I don't have any calendar events in my calendar. And the second time I run it is for calendar events in my calendar. So let's take a look at that.
Shortcut says, Alexa, connect to Bluetooth device.
Searching. Now connected to Jarvis.
to Bluetooth device.
Searching. Now connected to Jarvis.
So that's kind of it for my shortcut to kind of see what's going on with my day. As you can see, it's pretty easy to add and remove things, so you can make it as customizable to you as you want. I did make one change since filming the video originally. I added this option in here in between overcasted things to continue shortcut an app. I noticed sometimes things would get stuck and wouldn't open. It wouldn't happen all the time. It didn't happen during my testing, but after a while it did start to happen. So I put this in here. So basically what that does is after Overcast starts playing, it forces the shortcut to run back to the app, and then it'll open things. And the reason why I actually I don't know if I fully explained this or not, but the reason why I want it to open things instead of read everything out is sometimes my task manager can get really big. So I don't want a computer to sit there reading it out in a very mono voice. I would rather just glance at it. It doesn't take me very long to look at my task manager. This way, it's kind of a little bit easier. Calendar appointments, because I don't have so many of them, it's fine to read them out. Weather, pretty quick to read out. But Task Manager, I have way too much of that for it to read out. So that's kind of it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at Chris_Lolly. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.